The transfer portal window might be closed, but the actual portal is far from being over. There's a ton of names still looking for their next destination amid coaching carousel searches and Nick Saban retiring. And we don't even know what's going on in Ann Arbor yet when it comes to the Jim Harbaugh situation, which could open up the portal a little longer. But I thought, who are the top winners of the portal at this point going into the offseason? Why don't we go ahead and discuss? But if you are new here, welcome on into the channel, people. My name is Cole Thompson. I'm a radio show host based in Houston, and I talk college football daily. I get it. The clock has struck zero on 2023. Congrats are in order to Michigan. Best of luck to you in whatever your future unfolds. But I'm here for the offseason, and I'm here to keep you entertained. We're going to be recapping last season, a look ahead to next season, looking back at some of the dumbest predictions I made and some of the dumbest predictions you made, and a look ahead to some of the dumbest predictions I'm going to make and some of the dumbest predictions you're going to make. So if this is the type of content you need to survive the dreaded offseason of not seeing Saturday football on your television screen, might I recommend that you hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment telling me your thoughts on who won the transfer portal. Tell your friends, your family, your mortal enemies, best of bros, college football aficionados, everywhere about this channel, because we are on the race and eventually we'll get there. So jump on in while the water's fine. We are going to be the #1 YouTube show talking college football daily. Go ahead and subscribe to me on every social media platform. That way conversations never have to stop flowing. Twitter, X, Instagram, at Mr. Cole Thompson. Okay, so the transfer portal is still rocking. This has been the most chaotic transfer portal window that you have ever seen in the history of college football. And for a good reason. You know, when you lose a coach like Nick Saban to retirement, and that creates a ripple effect that drastically changes every coaching outlook, yeah, you're going to have some moves be made. But who were the moves that will solidify these rosters for next season? And I'm only looking ahead to next season, not 5 years down the line. For starters, it would be an easy one to go ahead and put Ole Miss on the list. They absolutely belong here. They have been the transfer portal kings since Lane Kiffin stepped into Oxford, and he's not changing his formula anytime soon. He gets that he can win on the recruiting trail, but he also can win with proven commodities that are a rental option for 1 or 2 years, and eventually they leave better prepared for the NFL. And he did it once again. You lose a guy like Quinshon Judkins, okay, best of luck to you in Columbus. Hello, Logan Diggs. You were a serviceable running back in the SEC. Think you can split reps with Ulysses Bentley? You brought over Juice Wells. Hey, Dayton Wade, we wish you nothing best in the NFL. But this was a 1,000-yard receiver at South Carolina. He's pretty damn good when it comes to winning at the point of attack. And he doesn't have to be our #1 because we have Trey Harris coming back. And we still have Caden Prieskorn. And we still have Jordan Watkins. So wash, rinse, repeat. But defensively is where this team really took a step forward. One thing that you heard Lane Kiffin talk about nonstop was we have to be able to compete alongside Georgia and Alabama, whether that be in recruiting or whether that be with on-field production. And the only way we can do that is bigger guys. Well, Princely Umanlielen was probably the #1 defensive end on the portal, and Walter Nolan was the #1 defensive player outside of Caleb Downs. So you got those two guys. You also brought in Omarion Miller from Michigan. You also brought over Chris Paul from Arkansas. Got ahead of myself. Key Lawrence from Oklahoma. That's now a defensive back that's already had experience in the SEC. And while you lose a few players, you also gain a few players. This is a really good team that has the identity, and they're basically pushing all their chips into the pile and saying, we mean business. We're going to the playoff. Go ahead and try and stop us. That's basically the MO. They've done a really nice job. I'm going to be shocked to not see Lane Kiffin and the Rebels at some point making a debut next season in the playoff polls. Next up, I think you got to go with the team that took a lot of players for Ole Miss. And it's a roster that kind of has flown under the radar because they don't have that same type of persona at the national stage. Louisville has been crushing the transfer portal. And what they've really done is they've kind of followed the MO of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Jeff Brom comes in last season and he brings over 27 transfers. And for the most part, it ended up panning out because you went 10-4. You went to a conference title appearance against an undefeated team, and your roster was good enough to get you to a top 25 ranking. So you double down and now you add in 24 players, and these are actually household names, whether they be Tyler Barron from Tennessee or Ja'Cory Brooks from Alabama. You also brought over Tyler Shuck, the former quarterback that was at Oregon and Texas Tech, who is going on what now? His 57th year of college football. Hey, listen, man, if you want to get an MD and knowing every personnel out there, be my guest. I have no problem with it whatsoever. So Brom is basically saying the formula is here. The pedigree is here. We already know that we can win against these other quality teams in the ACC. And now with college football playoffs expanding to 12 teams, we get to the conference title game again. What are you going to do to keep us out? Because we were in the running all the way down to the finish line. Are we still in the running now? That's my opinion of this team. Next up, Texas. Texas went for quality over quantity. And that's a big deal when you look at the way this team is, because they didn't have to go out and add in a ton of names. They're really well built for the SEC. In fact, you could say that it is smooth sailing on the 40 acres right now. But one thing that you know, Steve Sarkisian loves his weapons. And when his weapons are humming, so is the offense. That's what you got. You got an offense that is going to emulate a lot of that 2020 Alabama feel. Remember that team that had John Mechie, that had Devonta Smith, that had Jalen Waddle, that had Jahleel Billingsley, good run game, a solid quarterback, and Mac Jones. That was fine. And that's what's coming to Austin. Silas Bolden, speed threat that can work in the slot. You also brought in Matthew Golden from Houston. A lot of people kind of forgot about him because he signed in the early stages, but this was an all Big 12 player. You also brought over Isaiah Bond, 4th and 31, back in the end zone. I got you, bro. We're all good here. I'm going to make catches on catches on catches galore. And you also brought in Amari Niblack. You also brought in a couple names defensively like Trey Moore and Andrew Makuba. These are players that are going to be immediate plug-and-play starters and difference makers the second that they arrive in Austin. And now you basically are saying, hey, last season we were really good. Imagine what we could be this year with a little bit more speed, a little bit more elusiveness, and what our playbook can look like when we open it a bit more. They're doing a lot of good things in Austin right now, and Steve Sarkisian should be salivating at the mouth to be waiting with his chair and saying, hey, coaches, SEC, I'm glad I'm here. One of you has to move because I'm sitting at the big boy table. That's the way that Texas views it. That's the way that Texas should view it. Next up, Ohio State. Ohio State, they added in, honestly, the best player in the transfer portal. That puts you on the list. Plain and simple. You didn't need a guy like Caleb Downs, but you wanted a Caleb Downs. And now you look at the way this roster is constructed, you're just saying to yourself, okay, cool, we'll find a spot for him. Doesn't matter if we play him at boundary safety, field safety, we put him in the nickel. Guy's a human tackling machine. He's a leader in the locker room. People view him already as a first-round talent. Yeah, Jim Knowles, have fun with this guy. You love running 3 safety sets. I'm sure you can find a home for him. But you also did a little bit more. You brought over a really established quarterback that a lot of people are going to give flack to, but deserves none of it in Will Howard. Guy won a Big 12 title just 2 years ago and led his team to a Sugar Bowl appearance. The only reason why he's not starting anymore is because of the offense is changing, and Avery Johnson's really damn good, but he's mobile. What's the one thing that's been missing for Ohio State over the last several seasons? Mobility at the quarterback position. What's happened without that mobility? Loss. All to the maize and blue. So you're adding in a guy that can run the football inside the red zone and utilize his body in the open field to get those hard yards. You didn't need Quinshon Judkins. Who wants to go pay millions of dollars for a running back? It's basically the NFL, and the NFL says running backs don't matter. Well, you're doubling down and saying, listen, if we don't trust our quarterback room or we don't trust our wide receiver room, we're going to trust our 1-2 combination of Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. Both have split reps. Both have seen extensive carries. Both have high-value production. Hard to disagree with this type of move right there. And then you add in a few other names, plus with all the returning talent that is being brought in, Julian Saying for the long run at QB1. Yeah, I think that you're feeling a little bit of pressure if you're Ryan Day. I think that this entire staff is definitely understanding that the heat in the kitchen is about ready to set off the smoke alarms. You got to go ahead and temper those flames, because if you have to win a championship this year, whether that be a conference championship or a national one, you got to walk away with a little bit of hardware. Next up, new team coming on over to the Big Ten, Oregon. Oregon, they didn't really have to do a lot because their roster is so fundamentally sound underneath Dan Lanning, but Lanning's not going anywhere. And now neither is a ton of other talent. But the talent that you brought in, just damn. All across the board, whether you go ahead and say, we're losing Bo Nix and we don't want to lose that enigma, so we're just going to go ahead and bring in left-handed Bo Nix. Hi, Dylan Gabriel. Welcome to Eugene. Or it was, we're going to lose Troy Franklin and somebody's got to be able to get open opposite of Tez Johnson and Trayshawn Holden. Hey, Evan Stewart, what are you doing down in College Station? You like the green? You like the yellow? You like the Autzen Stadium mantra? Come on up to Eugene. We got you covered. And they added in several defensive players, and they added in an interior offensive lineman. So everywhere that you look at this team built for next season is, hey, newcomers, new feel, same assignment. 11-2 or 11-1, whatever it takes, we're getting to Indianapolis. And they have been built for this moment. And they're also built for the long run, because I don't know many schools that are landing 2 quarterbacks that were ranked inside the top 5 of the transfer portal, where one in Dante Moore is going to sit and wait a season until he takes over as QB1 in 2025 in the Big Ten. 2 more teams for you. I think it's really important to bring both them up. Florida State. If Ole Miss is the king of the transfer portal, you got to say Florida State's the prince. And what they're doing is they're kind of following a similar formula of what Texas does, but a little bit broader. Texas went for quality, not quantity. They only added in about 8 guys. But you know who they did add in? Really quality ones, really upstanding guys. You look at the schools that were targeted by Florida State: Alabama, Georgia, you look at Clemson, you look at Miami. Those are the schools that are where those talents are returning from. 14 players have joined Mike Norvell in Tallahassee. 13 come from Power 5 schools. So when you feel that kind of persona, it's a lot of these, they weren't able to get on the field. That doesn't mean they're not talented. And you look at a place like Alabama, you look at a place like Georgia, these are recruiting classes and rosters filled with top 2 tiers. Like, that's it. They either finish number 1 or they finish number 2. And at worst, they finish number 3. You would be okay with the top 3 recruiting class every single season. So Roydell Williams comes on in. He's going to be the replacement for Trey Benson. DJ Uiagalelei is the key selling point here. Do you believe that you are going to see better results than what he had when he was at Clemson? Was his time underneath Jonathan Smith promising that allowed the turnover ratio to kind of drop down and dwindle aside? And a guy like Mike Norvell, let's be real, he's seen DJU for the last 2 seasons before he went out to Corvallis. If anybody understands quarterback play in the ACC, it's a guy like Norvell. If he trusts him, why shouldn't we doubt? Final team. This is one of quality, and it's one of somewhat quality, but they're not getting brought up enough. I'm tired of hearing of it. Texas A&M. Texas A&M did wonders underneath Mike Elko in this transfer portal, because basically they're following what Brian Kelly did a few years ago and what Jeff Brom did last year and what Lane Kiffin's done and what a bunch of other coaches have done. They've gone out and they've added quality names and they've added quantity names. They've brought in players and personnel members that are going to be plug-and-play starters this year, and guys are going to be around for the long term. And it's also raised the quality of competition, whether that be on the offensive line, whether that be in the secondary, whether that be at linebacker, whether that be at defensive end, or that be at wide receiver. The quality of competition that's going to unfold in College Station during spring football is really going to set a baseline for Mike Elko in year 1. I believe Texas A&M falls more so in the dark horse conversation of winning the SEC. College football playoff, I would probably say they're on the precipice of that line. But when it comes to winning the SEC, there's a lot of people that don't know what's going to unfold underneath a guy like Mike Elko. But Elko's disciplined. He always gets the best version of his roster to unfold on Saturdays. People will follow him to battle. He's relentless when it comes to building an understanding of a culture. And that is now going to lead to competition in practice. Guys like DeRicky Wright, guys like Nick Scourton, guys like Jadari Barber, guys like I'm blanking on his name. The tight end from I can't believe I'm blanking on his name off the top of my head. The tight end from Purdue is another one. You also brought in a guy like Will Lee from Kansas State. These are guys that are going to not only raise the competition in practice, but they're probably going to win the competition outright and immediately be plug and play starters, which is a good thing, because of the last few years you've seen 5-7, 7-5, 8-4. That's not worth $9 million for any coach out there, especially one that's not want to make those changes. Change was made in College Station this past year, and so now you have a good understanding about where the transfer portal is. Those are my top winners of the transfer portal this offseason so far. Ole Miss absolutely belongs here. Louisville's done incredible work. You got to throw in Ohio State. You land the number 1 player, you're going to get a little bit of attention. Texas, quality over quantity. This is the way to work. Then you throw in Oregon. Oregon absolutely has done enough for the foreseeable future and for the long-term future. Florida State, what they've been able to produce on the regular is second to none. And then you got to throw in Texas A&M. It's a little bit of quality, but it's a hell of quantity that's going to really, I think, set the tone for a brand new era of Aggie football. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Don't hit the X button yet. Make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with all of our daily content found on Just Saying It and anything else that we post on this channel. Bye.